It's always been a goal of mine to sew a dress, a shirt, or any type of clothing, but I've always been really intimidated by it because I tried sewing back when I was in high school and I was always so frustrated. And I think the last time I sewed was actually a Kindle like pouch, so like I could put my Kindle in, but that was like fairly simple, I guess, because it was like a rectangle and it was pretty straightforward. But I feel like with a clothing item, there's so many different like pieces that are not just a rectangle. And so it's gonna be so hard for me to just sew anything that's not a straight line. But again, I'm up for the challenge and it's always been a goal of mine. So today we're gonna try and attempt to make a dress. Also, it's a very gloomy day outside, so I don't even want to be outside. It's a good excuse to be inside and do all these crafty things. It's so cold outside actually, even though it's like summer, that I'm wearing a hoodie, and it's my custom hoodie that I made from Vistaprint. It says, "I'm a real artist," because I feel like sometimes we forget that we are what we do. And so I always have imposter syndrome about it. So I wanted this as a reminder that I am a real artist. So I went ahead and got this pattern from Mood. It's like a popular like fabric store in the city, and they have a bunch of like free patterns, whether it's a dress or a shirt or pants, they have it. So I just printed it out, and I think I'm supposed to like kind of piece it together or something, and then I put the fabric on top, and then I just cut the pattern from the fabric. So I think that's what we're going to do now, but I want to show you what I got in terms of the fabric and also like what the dress is gonna look like. And I got this like red gingham fabric that I thought would be cute as a dress, and it's gonna look like this pattern, but I'll also show you like what's actually supposed to look like over here. So in the instructions, they gave you like this kind of pattern, and I think I'm just supposed to line everything up based off of the letter. So let's just do that first, tape it all together, and then we can start cutting. Okay, so for my size, they said that I should be cutting against this like line, double dot line here. And there's a whole legend in the instructions that you can follow, but depending on your size, that you just have to cut each of these lines for each of the sheets of paper. And there's like, I think like 16, 20 sheets. So let's get to it, and then we can align the fabric on top of it as well after we're done cutting. Okay, so we're finally done cutting all the different patterns from the paper, and it took a little bit longer than I thought it would take me, to be honest. I feel like it was kind of hard to read the lines for each of the different sizes that are needed. They look very similar. So it took me like a minute, especially since this is my first time like working with a pattern, to understand where to cut. And so again, took a little bit longer, but we did it. And now we're at the fabric stage where we lay everything on the fabric and we just cut it out, which would be so much easier now because we have the pattern and we just have to, again, lay it out and cut it. So everything is laid out and now I get to cut, and I got like specific fabric scissors this time because the last time I tried to do a sewing project, it was a disaster. Everything was kind of like frayed a little bit because my scissors were so bad. I think it was like meant for paper or like, I don't know, cardboard paper at the most, but definitely not for fabric. So I specifically got these this time. I know there was like these like rolling ones that can automatically cut, but honestly, I don't think I'm there yet. So I'm just gonna stick with these fabric scissors. And it's pretty easy to follow actually now that I'm like looking at the instructions. So it's laid out in like the different patterns by letter, and then it tells you how much you need to cut for each. So for the skirt portion, I need to cut like 2 of them, and then some of the other parts of the pattern, you kind of just have to cut it exactly how it is, and then you just mirror it, so just flipping the piece of paper over. So it's pretty easy to follow, but now I just gotta actually cut everything out. So. So now I have all the fabric and the lining cut. Again, took a little bit longer than I thought. I think the whole process of just cutting the paper patterns and the fabric and the lining, it was like about 3 hours. I don't know why it took so long. Is this like normal for people who sew to take this long just to cut things? Or is it just because I'm like a beginner and I don't know what I'm doing? But hopefully it's the latter, because if I were to like get into this, I don't know if I would want to like spend so much time cutting. I just want to get into the sewing and get frustrated in that aspect rather than having to cut things. But in terms of like other things that I bought in terms of supplies for this dress, is they asked for like elastic yarn, and then also elastic, just elastic basically. And it's gonna be for the back where it's a little bit cinched, and I think also the sleeves or the strap is also gonna be elastic. So I bought a bunch of this. I've never used elastic before, so I don't know how it's gonna go, but I was watching a video on people using the elastic for that cinched look, and it looks pretty self-explanatory, so hopefully it feels that way when I'm actually doing it. But I think I'm gonna take a break. I think we're in a good spot right now where everything is ready to go to actually sew, but I think I'm gonna have dinner first, and then either I'm gonna do it later tonight or I'm gonna do it tomorrow morning. Okay, so I messed up yesterday, but we are all good to go now. But yesterday, when I was like re-looking at the patterns, I thought I was like all ready to go. I thought I was in a good place to just start sewing the next day, and everything was cut and correct. But looking at the instructions again, or like watching a video of someone putting the pieces together, I was like, wait a minute, I don't have that specific piece, even though I cut everything that I thought I needed to cut. But basically where I messed up was there is like an instruction where some of the pieces are cutting it where it's like mirrored, and then some other pieces are cutting it on the fold. And when it says on the fold, you literally have to fold the fabric and cut the pattern piece, rather than having two separate pieces that are mirrored. So on the fold means literally folding it and then cutting that pattern out, whereas mirrored is two pieces but flipping the pattern so that it's two pieces. So had to unfortunately repin, recut a lot of the pieces, but we are good to go now, I think, hopefully. And luckily also I had a lot of extra fabric, because initially in the instructions they asked for a lot more fabric because it was accustomed to all the different sizes that it was meant for, but luckily I'm very small, so I used the least amount of fabric and therefore I had a lot of extra fabric. Okay, we have one piece done, and it only took a little bit of patience because there was parts where like it wasn't straight, it was like rounded. So I did have a few holes, but now there's no holes and it looks decent. I think it's starting to look like a top. So I'm excited. I think I have to just put the lining on and then the backing. So yeah, let's do that. I think we have to do the same thing except the lining. And now we have the lining. No holes on my first try, so it's a win for me, because for the gingham fabric, I actually needed to like rip out the seams and restart the first one because my first few stitches and there was a hole. So I'm glad I didn't have to use my seam ripper and restart this whole thing. So a big win for me. Okay, I spoke too soon because I actually messed up and it's so annoying. I hate having to use my seam ripper, but I did it where like one of them is the right way, but then the stitch is on the other way. And I'm so annoyed that I have to restart this now, or at least one of the sides. But they were perfect in terms of like stitching. So I'm like kind of sad that I have to rip it out now. I feel like I'm starting to get comfortable with the sewing machine because I'm starting to sew it a little bit faster, but these are the sleeves. I just have to get it inside out. I wish I had a tool for this because I feel like people have something to make this an easier experience, but I will just do it by hand for now. But a little fun fact actually about sewing and fashion in general is that I actually went to a fashion school when I was in college, but I went for like the business side and did like management. So I feel like all my friends and my family even were like, can you sew me this dress? Can you make this? Can you make that? And I'm like, I don't know how to do any of that because I am going for like the business side. I did not end up taking design. I wish I ended up taking like a design course or a sewing course. I just didn't have time when I was in school. So I'm doing this now as like post-grad adult, way past post-grad, but as an adult and just learning to do this for the first time. Well, not really for the first time sewing. I did it in high school a little bit, but again, did very simple things like a pillow or a placemat. Things that are just easy rectangular shapes, nothing as complicated as this. But anyways, so this is what it looks like inside out for one of the sleeves. I'm just like double checking that there's no holes in the seams. So far, so good. And then I think I'm supposed to put like elastic in here so that it just kind of like straps over. I feel like it's kind of like a little thick, but hopefully the elastic will help out with it being so big because my shoulder is quite small, but whatever. It's my first time doing this, so hopefully it'll look the way that I want it to look. But I'm actually like surprised at myself that I've been able to sew everything so far. Knock on wood that I don't go crazy because I feel like when I first started sewing, I was super frustrated with the whole process of like making a mistake and then having to use the seam ripper to get everything out. And I think that's one of the reasons why I quit sewing and I never like took up the hobby again because it was so frustrating. But then again, I was like in high school, so I feel like I was just in general like a very impatient person. So I feel like this is definitely something I'm glad that I got into at the time that I did because I feel like now I'm more of a patient person to be able to do this. But I feel like nowadays I'm more meticulous, but at the same time taking on the imperfections as well versus back in high school when I wanted everything to be perfect. So now I'm like trying to just, if something happens, I'll just take out the seams. Like it's no big deal. It's nothing in the world if I mess something up. Almost done with this sleeve. So this is the second sleeve, or not sleeve, I guess, more like a strap. Yeah, so it's gonna look like this. So the sleeves, I just stitched like a line for each of the sides so that I could put the elastic in it. So it could cinch when I sew the top, if that makes sense. I don't know, I'm just watching the video, but I think this might be the hardest part because, again, I think there's a tool to like put the elastic into the hole easily, but I don't have that. So this is kind of like when your hoodie string just falls out and you have to like put it in, and it's kind of hard to do so, but we will try our best. And I'm just gonna skip this part because I think it might take me an hour just to put it in and everything. Okay, the straps took a little bit too long. It took me like an hour to figure out how to like put it in, but I figured it out. I used like a wire and then I just threaded it through, but even then it took so long. But we're finally at the point where we can put it kind of together with the lining, and then the straps are down here, and basically when you flip it over after sewing it, it's gonna look like this, and then it's kind of cute. And then I think we just put the backing on it. But yeah, I can't believe it took me all day just to like, get this much done. I mean, I knew that sewing was gonna be a feat, but I did not expect it to be like a full day situation where I only get so little done. But again, it's my first time and everything is a process. I'm gonna just go through so many mistakes and having to redo them. So it's a process, and I'm here for the journey, and I can't wait to see what it ends up looking like when it's completely done. Day 3, and last night I sewed this and it looks cute, and I added like these elastic parts at the end or in the back to make it more scrunchy looking. But the only problem is it's a little bit too small. Like I tried to put it on and it went through, but it was really hard to take off. I think I might have made it a little bit too small, thinking I'm like extra small, but I think maybe I'm a small in this pattern, only because of all the scrunches and stuff, making it like more tight knitted. So I don't know. I don't want to like restart this, but what I was thinking of doing is maybe adding a zipper to the side so that it's a little bit bigger, and it's easier to kind of like put on. The only thing is this zipper is like so long, but I think I looked into like a hack to make it a little bit smaller. So I think that's what we're gonna try and do. Hopefully like even with like this extra inch, it like makes it 100 times easier for me to put on and take off this top portion of the dress. Otherwise, I think I might have to like restart something. Like it's gonna be such a mess to like do because it has like everything connected, and then it has like the backing part, and then also this elastic part took me like hours last night to do. So yeah, hopefully praying the zipper hack will work on this. For the zipper, they said to just measure it out give it an extra inch so you can like sew it back in. But yeah, so basically I have to cut it right here, which, oh my God, I'm like praying it works out. Oh gosh, already did it. No going back. So it's gonna look like that, basically. It works. I have the zipper on the side. It's not pretty, but it works for now. I'm hoping like the skirt itself isn't so tight because I feel like I don't have another zipper for the bottom. So I'm gonna try and make it more like elasticy or like bigger or something so that I can just literally slip it on. But I'm happy the zipper temporarily works. I think the next time I make this, it's just gonna be a little bit bigger because I was lucky enough to have a zipper this time around, but I probably won't the next time. So happy with how it looks so far. I love the little strappies. I like the little like extra ruffles. But yeah, so now on to the skirt, which hopefully is a little bit easier because the sizing or the size of the piece is a lot bigger. So let's get to do that. Okay, don't judge my floor because I have a dog and there's just toys everywhere and cotton and well, I'm also working on carpet, so a lot of the scraps are on the floor, but we're gonna be working with the skirt piece and we're gonna have like pockets. It's such a big thing to do because why not make it harder and add pockets? But here we go. I think we just have to sew it on the edges or whatever this is called, and then we flip it and then we sew the other side of the skirt. I think that's how it's gonna go. Yeah, let's try that. Let's see how that goes. If not, we have a seam ripper for any of the mistakes that we make, but I think that's how it's gonna go. I'm trying to like picture it in my head of like what has to like be folded inside out and which parts like to sew. So I think that's how I'm gonna do it. I'm not sure, but we'll figure it out each step of the way. Okay, so everything is pieced together. I just have to do like cleaning up of some of the yarn because there's a lot of just yarn sticking out and everything, but everything is pieced together. But yeah, I guess you'll see me trying it on in the next clip.